Hi, Mike Bowerman here from the Nintendo Objective. Recently, I got to chat with a fine gentleman named Yanni, who is a sound designer for an upcoming Wii U eShop title named Armillo. I got to ask him a couple questions regarding the sound within Armillo. Enjoy. Thank you for joining me and doing this interview with me. And I had a couple questions about the sound in Armillo, an upcoming game coming out on the Wii U eShop. First one is Armillo is a very space-centered game. Now, you used to work at EA, and you worked on the likes of games like Need for Speed, which is, needless to say, a little bit different than this. What is the progress and what is required to transfer from something from like a Need for Speed, like sound-wise, going to a game like Armillo, very space-centered, ethereal, out there?
Maybe I should start by talking a bit about what I did for Need for Speed. I worked on a PSP port for Need for Speed, and that was Need for Speed Street. And what I did was cinematics. So for those of you guys that don't know, cinematics are kind of the cutscenes that happen in between sections. So my responsibility was to figure out what music we were going to use and deal with the voiceovers and sort of create a really engaging little cinematic that makes you want to sort of play the track. I think the key thing there is engaging, because I've seen cinematics that are information-based, which are good because sometimes you need that information, but you really need to think about engagement and information. So I took that concept of engagement and brought it over to Armillo. The music I approached in this game was, I approached it kind of in a similar way that I approached the Active series, which we did at EA, which was I was trying to think of the end user and what would be most beneficial to them in terms of a musical experience. In my opinion, where most games fall flat is that you have fantastic pieces of music, but you can never have enough. There's never enough disk space or RAM or time to amass, edit, master, and do all the things you need to do to get the music in there. So my number one priority was to get as much music in the game as possible. Obviously, the music has to be relevant and it has to fit the game. The idea was to approach as many libraries as I could that I deal with that license music for us and try to get stuff that's really specific to Armillo. Second thing was to try to get a bunch of chiptunes in there. Now, in terms of doing chiptunes, for those you guys that don't know, chiptunes are basically made on very limited hardware. So they end up sounding like a bit like AM radio. Some people work on chiptunes on a Game Boy, like they use that as their synthesizer, but typically they only have 4 channels. So one of the things I wanted to do was get a bunch of chiptunes in there, but update them so that they don't sound like they're coming out of an AM radio, yet they still maintain all that beautiful vibe and instrumentation and arrangement that existed in the original. So I wanted to update the chiptunes to be like 2010 worthy. And then the last section was I was going to try to see if I could get some stuff composed myself. Now, I'm not a prolific composer, although I have worked in a lot of music in the past. So I just kind of sat back and sort of looked at what the game would need from an end user point of view, rather than what would Yanni like to put in the game. It's about thinking, what does the user want to experience when they play this game, and then trying to get that in there. So the number one thing was try to avoid repetition. So we did that by having over 60 or 65 pieces of music in Armillo, which is unheard of on a small title like this. So the music slightly pushes your gameplay up. So you'll note in some sections of Armillo, we drop a lot of the music layers out, and we have like really focused drum and bass thing, and that's to focus you towards a puzzle or a task at hand. And then we switch it up, we bring back all the instrumentation, which is like full on. So those two things were the key aspects in terms of bringing a sort of a AAA musical experience to a small game like Armillo, and sort of making it be somewhat comparable in that space.
Thank you for your time with this. This has been awesome. Do you have any other comments or anything that you want to say about Armillo coming out soon?
It's a small team that is sort of trying to do good. So we hope you'll try it. We hope you like it. We hope you'll tell your friends.
Well, there you have it. Be sure to check out Armillo, coming soon to the Nintendo Wii U eShop. This is Mike Bowerman signing out for the Nintendo Objective.